Hello children, I welcome you all to this English class. Today's session we are going to learn from Unit 3 Supplementary and the title is The Hour of Truth. This is a play and it was written by Percival Wilde. Percival Wilde chose to portray the values of life in his plays, throwing light on a specific trait of an individual. His one-act play, The Hour of Truth, is a testimony to his craftsmanship where the three classical unities of time, place and action are observed. The climax of the play develops rapidly and ends with a pleasant surprise. First we see about the author. Percival Wilde was an American author and playwright. He wrote novels, short stories, and one-act plays. He also authored a textbook on the theatre arts. Percival Wilde was born on 1st March 1887, New York City, United States, and he died on 19th September 1953, New York City, United States. Native to New York City, Wilde graduated from Columbia University in 1906 and worked for a time as a banker. He began writing plays in 1912. His famous books were Finger of God, 8 Comedies for Little Theatres and more. His famous movie was The Woman in Room 13. Wilde's plays were especially popular in the Little Theatre movement. Okay, we judge some people around us based on their qualities and actions. Am I right? Even we brand some people as good and some people as bad. What qualities do you think characterize a gentleman? Sometimes we judge people from their external qualities like dressed well, walks gently, speaks gently, etc. And sometimes we judge people from their internal qualities like courteous, patient, honest, etc. Right? Yes. Okay, when we see a few coins scattered on the ground, we would probably pick them up on the sly or walk away ignoring them. Am I right? Yes. What if it was an envelope full of rupees 2000 bills? How are people likely to react in such a situation? You know that very clearly, right? Some people may take it after checking whether anybody noticed him, but there are some people who inquire those around whether it belongs to any one of them. Am I right? Yes. So, here is a play which describes a situation where the honesty and uprightness of the protagonist is put to a crucial test. He is compelled by his family members to compromise on his ethics. Let's see how he is saved from that crisis. The Hour of Truth is indeed an intense psychological study of the corrupting influence of money on people. All individuals are tempted by greed at one point or another in life. This particular story shows how easily people forget their morals and upbringings when money is close by. The story centers on Mr. Baldwin and his family. Mr. Baldwin has to choose between being honest and being dishonest. And the climax that follows as an excellent message. Before we enter into the story, we see the characters. Robert Baldwin, hero of the play. Martha, Mrs. Robert Baldwin. Mr. John Gresham Baldwin. Miss Evie, children of Mr. and Mrs. Baldwin. Mr. John Gresham, a banker. Mr. Marshall, the president of the Third National. The scene is set at Baldwin's cottage and it is Sunday afternoon. Robert Baldwin has gone outside. His wife and children are anxiously waiting for his arrival. The sky is so dark. The family is expecting that it will rain and they do not know whether Baldwin would take his umbrella or not. While the family is waiting for Robert Baldwin's arrival, they are talking themselves about John Grisham, on whose bank Mr. Baldwin worked. Now, due to financial crisis, bank was closed and John Grisham is found guilty for that and is in jail. From their talk, it is evident that John Grisham's trial is on the next day and John Baldwin is giving evidence against him. But John Grisham calls him that day. They are very anxiously to know why he calls Baldwin. Evie has a doubt whether Baldwin is involved in breaking of the bank because every newspaper is mentioning that and Baldwin does not say anything against it. Martha tells that the newspaper is unfair to him. Since Baldwin is working under Grisham's orders, the family has a doubt whether he involved in the bank crash. But Martha firmly believes that Baldwin never did anything at all. He found out the bank crash by accident. John immediately says that he saw Donovan, the assistant cashier, the last day at the athletic club. Donovan was working there for 8 years. The news came like a bolt out of a clear sky. John has a suspicion that his father must have known about it because he is the only witness against John Grisham. Since he was named after John Grisham, John feels that because of John Grisham, his name is damaged. Even he mentions that John Grisham has acquired a lot of wealth in these 20 years while his father is getting just $60 a week. Martha tells that her husband is very dedicated to his work. Whatever John Grisham asked him to do without revolting, he obeyed. Finally, Robert Baldwin comes in the house. Everyone wants to know how the crash happened in the bank. He tells that even he knows what John Grisham is doing only one day before the crash. It is under his pressure that John Grisham closed the bank. He even tells them why John Grisham asked him to meet. John Grisham wants him to tell, "I don't remember," when the court asks anything about the bank crash to Robert Baldwin. If Robert Baldwin does this, he will get $100,000. But Robert Baldwin is an honest man, so he does not accept his proposal. But when the whole family hears about the money, their mind begins to change. They begin to convince Robert Baldwin. Martha wants to know whether the depositors would lose any money. Robert Baldwin replies that no one will lose anything. Thus the family comes to know that the money is safe. John Grisham's crime was that he misappropriated the funds. The family begins to persuade Robert Baldwin to say lie and to help John Grisham. At first, Robert Baldwin is shocked. Martha tells him that since they named their son's name after John Grisham, it will be a disgrace to their son. Also, it was John Grisham who sponsored John's baptizing. With these words, she forces Robert Baldwin to help John Grisham. According to Evie, if John Grisham tells the depositors that he will pay everything back the next day, they will hate Robert Baldwin for sending John Grisham to jail. John supports her by saying nobody wants to see him punished. He also feels that if John Grisham does not go to jail, he will start a business where Robert Baldwin can become his partner. This makes Robert Baldwin to get angry. Martha tries to convince Robert Baldwin by saying that now John is the sole breadwinner of the family, but his income is not sufficient for the family to survive. If Robert accepts $100,000 from John Grisham, the family can lead a cozy life. Robert Baldwin never thinks that his family will change after hearing the amount, which John Gresham will pay if Robert Baldwin says, "I don't remember," in the court. It makes him sad. He calls them shams, liars, hypocrites, and thieves. Still, the family persuades him to accept the money. By this time, Mr. Marshall, the president of the Third National, arrives in the home. He gives a piece of happy news to Robert Baldwin and his family by telling that a good position is awaiting for Robert Baldwin in the Third National. He hears from John Gresham that Robert Baldwin has refused to tell lie in the court, which prompted John Gresham to confess. Mr. Marshall is impressed by his honesty. The story ends with a positive note. We see honesty is rewarded in the end. Robert Baldwin's honesty and integrity brought him a job in another bank. He was proved again as a decent and dignified man. Thus the story ends. Let's see few key points for understanding. Robert Baldwin was an honest man. He was working under John Gresham in a bank. Gresham and Baldwin had been thick friends for over 30 years. Baldwin had even named his son after Gresham. Gresham had been arrested for misappropriation of money in the bank. Baldwin was to testify against Gresham. Gresham had offered Baldwin $100,000 to save him. Baldwin's family had also forced him to accept the money, but he had rejected it. Gresham accepted his crime at last. Finally, Mr. Marshall offered Baldwin a job in his bank. Thus, Baldwin was rewarded for his honesty and integrity. Okay, children, up to this, the supplementary is over. Hope you understand. Please watch this video once or twice for better understanding. Okay? Thank you.